tried to find some honest answers in the television box, but nobody there would listen. They just talk, 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 until one night, quite by accident, I found, while remotely flipping channels all around, it was my friend from down the street, and he was sitting on a couch. He was playing his guitar, and he was letting it all hang out. And he sang, "You can do it too. You can do what I'm doing. You can put your message on community TV. Get yourself some public access. You won't hardly have to practice. Just believe in what you're saying and your creativity." With all the foolishness that's going down today, there's lots of things that I've been meaning to say. There's only so long you can hold it in before you pop your cork, but we can't all be David Letterman and broadcast from New York. And so I went to see my guitar playing neighbor, and I said, "What is this public access where you labor?" He said, "Here, you take this camera out and document your views. Give us footage when you're ready. You're on opposite the news." And then he sang, "You can do it too. You can do what I'm doing. You can put your message on community TV. Get yourself some public access. You won't hardly have to practice. Just have faith in what you're saying and your creativity." Oh well, I went and shot 3 pussycats, 2 paper boys, 1 mailman, and a woman walking to the park with their children and back, an older couple strolling, and a pack of rowdy boys. Then I mixed it all together with some slides and happy noise. Now not everyone has cable, I know, so not everyone can see my picture show. But who knows, there might be one sad person all alone somewhere, out there flipping through the channels, wondering if nobody cares, and perhaps they accidentally found me, and just maybe heard me singing on TV, and then said, "I don't have to focus on the networks anymore. I'll go get some public access just to even up the score. Because you can do it too. You can do what I'm doing. You can put your message on community TV. Get yourself some public access. You won't hardly have to practice. Just believe in what you're saying and your creativity. I mean to say, you can do it too. You can do what we're doing. You can put your message on community TV. Get yourself some public access. You won't hardly have to practice. Just have faith in what you're saying and your creativity. Oh, get yourself some public access. You won't hardly have to practice. Just believe in what you're saying and you are creativity.
all did you tell that guy from WOUB?
Oh, the WOUB, she was just asking me what we were doing, what our purpose was, and I was saying, you know, we're really just trying to send peace to Ferguson, Missouri, and Michael Brown's family, and to the world, really. But to remember Michael Brown, who was killed 1 month ago today. Ferguson. Peace and remembrance. Absolutely.
Would you say you're a pacifist?
Probably, yeah. Personally, yeah. I can't speak for the whole group, but yes. Not that different than Apple. Definitely.
It's hard to sit by with all that going on across the ocean.
Yeah, it really is, but violence or fear and hate don't really solve anything. So there has to be a better way.
The source of the material for the hoop house that I built. Wenger's in Bainbridge, Ohio, so it's within driving distance. It's owned by Amish, so there's no fancy website. You order by mail and you send them a check, and you drive there and get it.
Are you going to show us the hoop house?
We will see that.
Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
But this is a very good, it's good prices and a lot of materials, and it's cool going there to see it.
Okay.
This is the most important addition to the farm, the prep room for preparing vegetables in, which was long needed. We've had it about 3 years now. And there's electric, there's refrigerators in it, there's water. It's not a processing room. We don't do processing here.
What are you doing there? So what are you doing there?
They want to.
Everything out of the field goes in there. We rinse it, not wash. Package it, put it in boxes, whatever. Put it in the refrigerator if it needs refrigerating in the morning. Load it on the truck.
And where? I don't see a drain.
We had to dig a ditch in the hole, so we just backfilled with gravel. Yep. So incoming water became the drain.
So you get all your water from where? The cisterns? And
Okay, the source of the water is kind of overgrown with weeds, but there's a cistern. You can see a little brown thing, which is actually the roof washer, the filter. And so water comes off the roof, and there's an underground line, 2 lines that run into the cistern. 1,000 gallons of cistern with a submersible pumping. My plan is to put in a second 1,000 gallon.
Yeah, and you just buy them and they come in sets.
Oh, right. We dug that well ourselves.
Oh, manual.
White tanks are for irrigation water. I just have to switch the gutters. It's now switched to go into the white tank, and when the white tanks are full, then I switch the gutters so it goes to the cistern.
are those
And
500
that's that right
gallons?
there?
Right there. I just have to switch the downspout.
Okay.
How big are those?
Those are 450s.
Okay.
And water new transplants that we set out. That's about as much watering as we can do.
Beginning watering.
Beginning watering. After that, they're on their own. So totally inadequate irrigation here.
Bucket by bucket.
Well, that's the source of the water and from the edge of the hillside. And there are wet spots. And that's where the groundwater, you have a hill, and you have an impervious layer, and that's where our well goes to, and then the water comes out on the edge. We're starting seedlings in the summer, and you can see a new batch of lettuce coming up there, and here's the batch of lettuce waiting to be transplanted.
It's cool and they'll germinate at this temperature? This warm temperature?
It's hard.
And it gets really, really hot, I can have germination problems.
Yeah, alright.
And sometimes, if it's really, really hot, I'll put the flats in the root cellar.
There you go.
A bug-free place to start transplants. Because my last seedling of corn got eaten up by something. Something went into the ground and ate the seed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because he recently did a repair job for me.
Yeah, I don't even see it in there.
Part of the bar, the sickle bar, broke, and I took it to him, and he did a
Mr. Welder.
outstanding welding job. And the thing works, and he wanted to see it in operation, so I am going to start it up and mow.
All right.
The sickle bar cuts the grass after it's dried. This is the rake.
Oh, you don't have a
They call
seat
it
on
dump
yours.
rake or a drop rake. This rope, I pull it with the tractor, and I tie the rope onto the tractor someplace so I can reach it. These things are really cool. I love them. You drive through the field, and it picks up the hay, and you get a big pile of hay right there.
Yeah.
And when you get it full, pull the rope, pull forward, drop it. Keep going. And I can place the piles wherever I want them. If I want them for mulch near a garden, then I just rake up to the mulch, rake up to the garden, and dump them at the garden. If I'm going to be taking into the barn for feed, then I'll leave it in a pile, and then I come back with the wagon, work it in by hand, drive to the barn, unload it into the haymow.
My grandfather's had a seat on it.
Well, this used to. It used to be horse-drawn,
And that's why I used to
and
ride
you'd
off.
see it on the seat, and the horses would be attached. You know, you'd have a single tree, double tree, whatever there. And this, so this was modified for tractor use. But that's the way I got it. It was sitting out in the neighbor's field, rusting away. You see these things in people's yards as lawn ornaments.
But that was my job in the summer. Sat in the chair, pushed it down, pulled it back up.
Okay, there is a mechanism. It's broken off now. There was a foot pedal here that you could push it, which would engage a rod, something like this, which would cause it to lift.
Yep.
And you did that.
That was my summer job. How old
What was pulling it?
You miss it?
About 12 horses. Or the
But
tractor.
you didn't run the team.
No, it was either the horses or the tractor when I was doing it. But I would just sit on that thing. That's the thing.
But your grandfather was
Well,
leading
that
the
time
team or driving the
That
tractor?
was my uncle at that time, yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid. And then we also had the one where once you got it in those windrows, as we call them, then they would come along with a team of horses, would hook a wagon to that, and then they'd hook the hay loader to that, and they would ride along, and the hay loader, they'd run over the windrows with the horses, and the horses would sneak what they could get. And then the hay loader would just pick the hay up, and it would run up, and
Yeah, I've seen those.
and then they'd take it to the barn, and then they'd park it, and then this big fork would come out from the barn. They'd hook, they called it a mower, but it was an old truck that they took the tire off them and just had the rim. and they put the big belt on that, and they turn it on, and she'd run, and the fork would come and they'd go up, in, and someone drag it inside and dump it.
That's cool.
It was cool. It was great.
I actually, when I was a teenager, I worked for an old farmer who did that. I've done everything you said, except ride on the back of the truck.
That was the only cool job.
You've never seen a cutter bar before.
I've never tasted a popcorn.
Sustainable living. Look at all this scale. Here's solar hot water. And here David did another job for me. The copper tubing was worn out and leaking. And David replaced this piece and this piece, which are the headers. He replaced it, and he devised this ingenious way of making the connection, because that's where the breaks always occurred.
A piece of flex.
He used that piece of hose, and I said, you can't do that, it's not going to hold, it's going to leak.
Well, he put clamps on it.
These flimsy little clamps, nah, that isn't going to work.
What kitty?
It's wonderful, it works perfect, it's flexible.
It expands and contracts.
Yeah, that's probably what was making him break. Yeah.
Well,
it was breaking at these points.
Yeah.
For all the years I had this, that's
The pipes would freeze in these channels.
Yeah.
And you had to sort of pry them out, and you couldn't get them back in, and they were constrained. It's over constrained, like, you know, if you try to pry one up, then these other ones are sort of keeping it from.
So now they're all independent.
So now you could theoretically, next time it freezes, replace one pipe pretty easily.
yeah, it'll be easier to. Although I'm never going to let it freeze again.
Yeah, that's what it says. But
How do you keep it from freezing?
I have to drain the system before it freezes. This is simply a warm weather system. There's another example of David's handiwork. Now this is called the thermosiphon hot water system. So this is where the water gets heated, but this is the storage tank. And you start it out in the spring, you fill the storage tank and you fill the panel. And the source of water is from the roof to that holding tank, into the storage tank of the panel. And the thing is all interconnected with hoses, and there are no water pumps here to circulate the water. It operates on gravity, and once the water heats in the panel, hot water, I say hot water rises. I know that's not technically correct.
the density is lower, it expands, and so you get what? Yeah, the heavier cold water displaces the.
Anyway,
Just like air.
the less dense hot water rises through this hose into the top of the storage tank, displacing the colder, denser water, which is connected to the bottom of the panel, and it sets up a cycle.
Yeah.
The water flows automatically when the sun's out, and I ended up with a tank full of hot water.
Yeah.
And then there's a hose that runs from there into the house.
Chase,
Did you
come
leave the
here.
windows open in the car?
Chase,
I didn't.
Your side.
you may have to leave and get out of the rain in a minute.
Okay.
Hey, dude, guys, let's get in the ground so we don't get wet.
Oh, you guys look alike. Let me see your eyes.
Handwork. We don't run a chiller. We don't use a factory.
Yes.
We have several sets of these. It is hand tilled. I don't use a broadfork. We use pitchfork, hoe, whatever needed to smooth off the surface and prepare it for planting. Okay, this is my hoop house. My homemade hoop house. Have we lost a bunch of people?
It was finished without shade.
So I built last fall these pipes I got from Lowe's, and they are the top rail of a chain link fence. I did my own bending job here. I have a cultivator that attaches to the back of the tractor like the mower does, which has two, you can see it over there, two heavy iron bars, and it just made a place to stick a bar into and bend. If you have something real sturdy, iron bar, you can bend these things.
Somewhat bigger scale.
This is the rye. This spring, about the middle of May, it was like that tall, and I mowed it down. And several weeks later, I went through a shovel and I made the planting holes. And most of it I put in squash seedlings. And I put in a few tomato plants and a few other squash plants. There's a lot of weeds coming through. There's sedges and there's a lot of cracked grass. But it didn't get plowed. It didn't get disked. There's more mulch ready to put on. We just have to add more, keep adding more mulch. That's all we're going to do. Okay, the question is, what do we do in the fall when the crop's out? These are all large fields we work with the tractor. And we practice a 2-year rotation in which 1 year there's a cover crop, and that's what's coming on here. And the other mate to the field has a cash crop on it. So after that's out, I'll disc it up with the disc and then plant probably a cover crop like wheat for the winter.
So you'll disc it up and then
yeah,
you'll
I'll
plant
use the disc and then I'll plant a cover crop. Last year this had vegetables in it. It had wheat over winter, which I mowed down, raked up, and used for mulch, which I put over there. So this wheat has already been moved over there for added mulch. And then I planted this, which is cowpeas. Which is a fast-growing pea, which gets very big and vigorous and viney, and this will just be a solid mass of green.
Yeah, love it.
For cover crop. Then I'll disc down the cover crop in the fall and plant a winter cover crop like rye or wheat for next year.
Does that produce peas? The edible peas?
No. It just produces green forage. Well, it probably would produce a seed if I let it, but I don't want it to, so I get it all disked down and incorporate it into the soil. There's a big corn soybean farmer near Lancaster, David Brandt, who offered a workshop, and I went and Greg went, and he does acres and acres of corn and soybeans like that. He just plants the rye, and he doesn't cut it. He uses a big special machine called a roller crimper, that flattens the grain, the rye down. Then he has a no-till planter. I mean, his is all mechanized. When we went there, it was in the fall, and you wouldn't know. It was planted like that. It just looks like a normal corn, soybean field. So that kind of gave me the inspiration to do it. Of course, he does use herbicide, so his field doesn't look like mine.
Yeah. What really impressed me about his operation is how he's got his organic matter up to 7%. Using the cover crops, and 4% is when the nutrient cycling starts happening. So he's way beyond that. So now he's at the point where fertilizer does not have to happen. You know, he's growing his fertilizer. You know, it's a bank. If you got a good profitable year, you put phosphate and potash on the ground and save it for when you have a bad cash crop.
So this is being done on a large scale, and so
that's 1,200 acres.
But it is easier with mechanization, no-till planters.
So you just plow that center strip and double row.
So,
they plow, you know, a wide strip of a single bottom plow, maybe 2 passes.
spinach.
Yes. Here's an old lettuce plant which is done. But as soon as most things in the summer are transplanted, I put shade cloth over it.
Finally.
You found it. I do all transplants for onions. They were started in flats and seed. Start in February because they're slow. Storage onion is copra. I have a red onion, red wing, and a sweet onion, Lisa Craig. Mostly I grow the copras because they keep better. The sweet onions don't keep very long. And this is my first planting of potatoes and ready to harvest. I'm sure there's lots of good new potatoes. I like red Norlands for the early ones.
Strawberries. And these are sunchokes.
Just punch a hole and plant right through it.
That was my thought process.
Sunchoke.
Put paper down and cover
Some of these I could try the no-till method, but some things I don't think I can. Like potatoes, you gotta hill them.
Yep.
You can't hill if it's...
unless you mulch them.
Well, or there's the all sweet potatoes you need hilled first. During the day, and then I put them back in.
Seed
In
starting.
nights. So this is actually where they start in the winter.
So you just use the artificial light in the winter?
Well, early
them out.
night
Okay.
for heat, but I also set it out in the sun during the day. I don't,
Do you have to deal with this too?
oh yeah, and then I can start a fire in here in the winter.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about February.
Yeah.
And I can heat it with this. And I can keep the plants in here.
Does that stay warmer by itself with the light?
With the lights it stays. So when I first seed my flats in February when it's cold, put them in here and I turn the light bulb on. And that keeps the seedlings warm until they germinate. As soon as it's empty, then another batch goes in. So starting in February, it's non-stop seed starting.
Yeah, until when?
Well,
Until,
it's
like,
still going
August?
on. Now it's just going on outside.
Yeah, but until July, end of July, August? When do you stop?
Going to September,
Was seed starting?
I'm starting my fall winter crops then.
This is a
When
40
when
watt
I can't get
bulb.
the bulbs anymore, I'll have to find a different way to heat it.
Hail to the tail.
Right there. I just
Electric
needed to make a
fence.
junction with the wires. Right. And a ground wire. Also, there's a ground rod.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ground rod and... Hey!
It's not working.
Not
it's
working. The Boy Scout
Look at
symbol.
this, we're assembling.
You need an auditory.
Well, what I
Okay, I gotta do a little solar stuff here.
Oh boy.
We have a group called the Sustainable Living Network. And we do tours of people's homes and places where we look at the solar stuff, not the gardens. So what we have here is a 1.8 kilowatt photovoltaic system. The panels out there, 130s. It makes DC power, and there's an underground trench that comes into here, into the inverter, which feeds it into the house. Right now, the system is generating.
What are you doing?
311 watts.
Oh, what's your total watt?
That's a lot.
How big's your system?
Today it has generated 8.27 kilowatts. You toggle this by rapping on it.
Well, that's...
And it shows different screens. It was a rather cloudy day, and yet it still made about 8 kilowatts.
How big's the system?
1.8 kilowatts. What yours is?
2.2.
So ours is very, very small. Some people are really big now. Okay, then we put in a year ago battery backup. 12 volt. They also had to put in a new inverter, a battery controller thing. This gets complicated. I don't understand it very well. This is a grid-tied system. We're still connected to the grid. And previous to the batteries, when the grid went out, this shut down and we were out of power.
Yeah, that's no good.
And that is absolutely required. You cannot be generating power with the grid down and feeding power back into a line and fry the workmen.
Yeah. Can you use your own solar power?
Before we put this new system in, no, we could not.
Oh, okay.
So, as a result of a major windstorm a couple years ago that knocked out power for a week, myself and a bunch of other people like David put in a battery backup. When we have a storm and it knocks off the grid, the thing switches over to battery backup and solar and disconnects it from the grid. So we can still use the PV power and the battery power in the house and be disconnected from the grid. It generates less in the winter and more in the summer. So in the summer our bills are usually zero. In the winter we're paying bills. If we build up any credit in the summer, we use up that credit in the winter. So we were always very energy efficient, and such a small system as 1.8 K would not work if people use major. Electrical usage in our house has always been around averaging 200 kilowatts a month. The average American household uses 800 to 1,000 a month. The very first thing you do before you even think about solar is drastically reduce your electrical consumption.
We're trying.
It's ridiculous to think you're going to put in enough solar power to cover all your extravagant uses.
Jerry has to have air conditioning though.
We have air conditioning.
Extravagant.
Yeah.
A necessity. We have a high humidity in our house.
I don't use the television.
We're doing the
I don't have a
LEDs, we're
DVD
modernizing
player,
the
I have all that
refrigeration,
stuff. I just
the
have
air conditioner just died. Everything's getting better all the time.
But really, except for AC, we have any modern appliance you can mention.
The trick is if I put in a 10 kV system, as I reduce it, then I could use the balance to make hydrogen to run my cars.
Now you're
You could
cooking.
be like William Beale, yeah, you could have a solar car.
Yeah.
You could just charge an all-electric
I
car.
can convert my existing vehicles, I don't have to replace them.
Of course, we have the solar hot water system that only works in the summer, not in the
You're
winter.
using PV too.
But we heat with wood, which is basically solar energy. And in the winter, we heat our water on the wood-burning stove. We do have a bathroom with running water and an on-demand electric water heater. Which means when you turn the water on, there's no tank, it's a tankless water heater. The water circulates, is heated as it circulates through the water heater.
And you want electric rather than LP or gas?
We have electric because we have solar electric. And we actually don't use it very much. In the winter we have all the hot water from our wood stove, in the summer we have the solar water. We use it some in between times, and use it a little bit on cloudy days.
Okay.
It really has not added significantly to our electric usage.
Lot simpler system to install.
And it's very lot simpler than a gas one. And less maintenance.
Yeah.
And out here we're not on a gas line, and we would have to haul gas tanks. On our water supply right here. That's our water, right down there. And you saw the hand pump that doesn't work very well. That draws water from this system. So we have dual systems. One, an old hand pump, no electricity, and then we have an electric pump. So when the power goes out, we can actually function quite well. See, the Japanese beetles are moving in.
Yes.
Asparagus beetle larvae.
If they get bad, they'll strip the ferns. You want to see an asparagus beetle adult? So that's the adult, and then you've seen the larvae, and you can even spot the egg hanging on the branch. They're easy to overlook.
Asparagus.
Oh, yeah, I have those things.
Underground tuber, I sell them through the winter.
Jerusalem artichokes.
They aren't done growing yet. They'll get 10, 12 feet tall, and then they'll fall over and crush anything next to it. So they're kind of a pain for the beds on the other side. I'll have to quit growing on those beds. I can't plant anything else there because they're going to fall down. Mulch off and dig them out of the ground in the dead of winter. Arugula. I keep this on because of the flea beetles.
Yeah, I see. Actually, isn't one of my favorite. What is that?
Well, I'm sure there's some flea beetles in there. Every 2 weeks, new lettuce planting goes into the shade cloth. When the next planting goes in, which has to be this coming week, the new planting is ready, then the shade cloth will move. So it's only under shade cloth for 2 weeks. But that's how far it's gotten in 2 weeks. And the variety is Kalura. Kalura, I've tried lots of different romaines. Kalura is the best romaine for summer, for any time.
Because it's slow to bolt.
Slow to bolt. All the other romaines I found are bolt too fast. It's a crispy lettuce, that's why it's called a crisp. It doesn't sell very well.
Magenta.
Darn it. And neither does romaine. The best-selling lettuce is the green leaf, the red leaf.
Oh, yeah.
The best red leaf in the summer that I have found so far is red fire. I start out in the spring with red sails. In the summer it bolts too fast. So in the summer I switch to red fire, and in the winter fall I go back to red sails. Get a decent head, but you gotta be quick cutting it.
Green leaf lettuce.
And then I grow a second kind, Simpson Elite, and it's a little bit slower bolting. So it's nice to have both. First I cut the 2-star, and then with the 2-star, I mean this is
Bolts
already
fast.
bolted, so now I'm ready to start cutting the Simpson Elite. And Adriana,
Bibless.
I have not found a bib that holds up well in the summer and doesn't bolt.
Ready to pick.
That's the Simpson Elite.
Is this Adrienne?
The green is Adriana.
Uh-huh.
The red is Pyrate.
Uh-huh.
I'm satisfied with these varieties, really. I mean, if I pick them on time, that's my biggest problem, is I usually end up with too much lettuce and I'm picking them too late.
Rhubarb, hi. Take the shame out of your mouth.
Berries here.
Strawberries, raspberries, blueberries.
You all know birds take blueberries. Yep. I usually put netting on them. I didn't put the netting on because I got this flyer in the mail for bird repellent. It sounded like a great idea. You just spray this stuff on and the birds won't bother you and I won't have to bother putting the netting on. Well, I did it and it doesn't work. And we have no blueberries and I'm going to have to put the netting on.
And so what's the name of this stuff that nobody should buy?
Avian control. Maybe it works some places. They claim it's non-toxic and does not affect the taste of the berries.
So 9-shot's the only repellent that works.
Oh.
Is that a weapon that you...
Yeah.
Maybe in some places, in some circumstances, with some species of birds it works. It's mainly blue jays and cardinals.
Well, we have cedar waxwings. And the baby cedar waxwings, even though we
Scarlet
have netting over our blueberries, and there's probably the netting's about 1 inch, and those baby cedar waxwings can just go at it,
They'll go through it.
tuck their wings and turn into a bullet.
Yeah.
And then they're flying inside, like, oh, look what I did, look what I did.
And they
I
can't
can't
get
get
out.
out again.
It took me almost, 2 weeks to finally figure out it was the cedar waxwings, because I would go in and chase it and it'd be gone. And I'd look for holes in the netting everywhere. No holes, nothing. And finally I said, you go inside and chase, I'm going outside and watch. And he went and chased them out, and I just watched, and they just tucked and turned into a little bullet and straight out the netting. We have electric net, it's this tall, because the squirrels come from the woods and rip holes,
Yes,
gaping
they
holes
can.
in our netting,
Yeah.
and go in and help themselves. So this year, Greg put netting around the blueberries and the pear trees, I guess, as far as it goes everywhere.
Yeah, the Asian pears keeping the squirrels out. You know, the squirrels and the blue jays, they eat apples and pears.
They want
just
the
tear them up.
pits and
Tomatoes, assuming each planting in succession will die from blight, then I'll have a new one coming on.
Can you have blight on something this small?
No, it usually doesn't set in until later in the season. Okay, who can tell me about blight? About the splashing water, it doesn't spread as fast.
Mulch stops splashes, I would think.
What about black plastic? I've actually been pruning off lower limbs.
Yes, a foot.
I've got so few tomatoes.
It really
I can
makes
do
a
that.
difference to have them in greenhouses. They aren't splashing anything. It's all,
They're not getting any water on them either. So
well, it's drip. They got drip on
It's all
it.
drip, so you're not
yeah,
getting
but the
water.
foliage doesn't
Splash.
get wet. Yeah.
And they don't
The
get the rain
foliage
either.
stays dry. I think
Maybe-
that's the ticket.
Maybe that's
The foliage stays dry.
Even with
And you don't get the rain or anything.
So you can put little umbrellas over your tomato plant. Because we have drip irrigation.
Divert the water.
That'd be something to try.
Yeah, good air circulation there.
Yeah.
It seems to repel flea beetles.
Really?
Because usually, okay, they don't look that great, but there are
Black
growing
plastic.
half-healthy eggplant. And usually I haven't had this in years. Even though I haven't sprayed this in weeks. Normally I would have to spray several times a week just to keep the plants to survive. I'm doing very little spraying, and there's, it could be just the season. Maybe the flea beetles were knocked back for the year. Maybe it's not the black plastic. I don't like using a lot of plastic in the garden. I'm thinking for eggplant and peppers, the plastic is a good thing. In the past, I've tried CD discs. I've hung a whole bunch of discs. It didn't really work that well, and it was really a pain putting them up.
To have a blind or something in the right place, or sneak. I used to sneak to the cornfield to kill the sentry. If you kill every one that comes back, you'll kill every one of them. But when they see who you are, the word's out. So as long as you kill the sentry and kill every one that comes back, you'll get them all.
What do you mean, the sentry?
There's
Lookout.
always a bird watching, keeping track. And he's up in the tree, bare branches usually. And so you knock him down first, and everybody hits the air. And they don't know what happened. They come back. They're too curious. So just pick them off one at a time, and they come back. You can get them all if you're a good shot. I was never able to get more than 3. I never got them all.
Well, most guys around here, they just kill one and hang it in the garden.
Okay, if that works.
I've had, that's what the neighbors do.
Okay, sounds good to me.
They're right at the root.
Yeah.
Copper soap shoe. I've done copper. I have some copper. I have it. I've used it. Copper soap. Yeah. It gets real tall.
It's a legume too.
It's a legume. It has beautiful blue, yellow flowers. You could pick them and sell them as bouquets.
Cover crop.
But it didn't make a good solid ground cover. I mean, they got tall. I'm settled on cowpeas. I just like cowpeas. They make a thick mat on the ground. They cover the ground. Weeds can't get through in that year. They disc in easy. The sun hemp got very tough stems and would not disc in well.
Spinach. Cabbage.
We have some now, yes.
You
You get there too late.
I
They get there at 8:55.
Do you want me to save some for you?
Yeah,
On
I
what
will.
day? Wednesday or Saturday?
He wants an apple. Give me crap.
Look at the pony. And the donkey. Oh, that's a sweet baby. I mean, that really is a pony. It's not a Shetland or anything. It's a pony, right? Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Yeah.